In the world of online creation, every successful influencer is, to some extent, playing a character. They craft a persona, a simplified, amplified, and marketable version of themselves to connect with an audience. This is the fundamental transaction of the modern attention economy. But what happens when that persona becomes so successful, so lucrative, and so deeply ingrained in the public consciousness that the creator can no longer take it off? This is the central paradox of the modern celebrity. The very character that sets you free with fame and fortune can ultimately become your most inescapable prison. The mask, when worn for long enough and with enough conviction, fuses to the skin, and the performer forgets where the character ends and they begin. Tonight, we are exploring this dangerous and fascinating phenomenon through the definitive case study of TANA MONGEAU and Brooke Schofield. Their story is not just one of a friendship's collapse. It is a profound psychological tale about two individuals who became psychologically and financially trapped inside the very personas that made them famous. We will deconstruct the specific, symbiotic characters they forged for the public on their hit podcast, Cancelled. We will analyze how the immense success of these personas created a gilded cage of financial incentives and intense audience expectations. We will frame Brooke's eventual departure not as a simple betrayal, but as a desperate and necessary escape attempt from her own persona prison. And finally, we will examine their careers today, in September 2025, as a continuing and often public struggle with the ghosts of the characters they created. This is the story of the incredibly high price of a successful performance. The unprecedented success of the Cancelled podcast was not an accident. It was the direct result of a perfect, albeit dangerously volatile chemistry between two masterfully executed public personas. TANA MONGEAU, a battle-hardened veteran of the YouTube wars, played the role she had been refining for over a decade, the architect of chaos. This was not just TANA being her authentic self. It was a curated and highly amplified performance of her most marketable and viral traits. The persona was relentlessly unpredictable, unapologetically messy, and lived a life of such consistently high drama that it generated an endless, inexhaustible supply of shocking content for the show. She was the active force, the one who created the storms that the show, its co-host, and its audience would then be forced to navigate. It was a powerful, dominant persona that she controlled, wielded, and monetized with a level of instinctual skill that few creators possess. In perfect, necessary contrast, Brooke Schofield developed and perfected the persona of the relatable reactor. Her primary and most vital role within the show's structure was to be the audience's surrogate, the grounding force that made TANA's often alienating world of chaos feel accessible and entertaining. Her persona was fundamentally defined in reaction to TANA's. When TANA was wild, Brooke was witty, judgmental, and sarcastic. When TANA was vulnerable, Brooke was the supportive but eternally eye-rolling best friend. This reactor persona was incredibly effective and essential to the show's formula. She provided the punchlines, the narrative structure, and the constant, "Can you believe this is actually happening?" commentary that the audience desperately needed to make sense of it all. For years, this symbiotic dynamic was a billion-dollar formula. The architect created the raw, unfiltered content, and the reactor expertly packaged it for mass consumption. The inherent problem with this dynamic, however, is its suffocating power imbalance. One persona is always active, while the other is, by definition, almost always reactive. One creates the world, the other must simply live in it. This created a psychological framework that was wildly profitable in the short term, but deeply and structurally unstable in the long run. As the Cancelled podcast exploded from a popular show into a genuine cultural phenomenon, so did the financial and cultural value of their respective personas. TANA's architect of chaos persona attracted a lucrative portfolio of brands that thrived on edginess, controversy, and viral moments. Brooke's relatable reactor persona, on the other hand, was a powerful magnet for more mainstream, lifestyle-oriented sponsors who wanted to tap into the show's massive audience without being directly associated with its most chaotic elements. The more successful they became, the more rigid and unchangeable these personas had to be. The audience didn't just enjoy the characters they played, they came to expect them, demand them, week after week. This is precisely where the glamorous prison began to take shape, its bars forged from gold. Any significant deviation from their established and profitable roles became a direct and immediate threat to the entire business model. If TANA became too stable, too mature, or too drama-free, she risked losing the massive audience that craved her signature chaos. If Brooke stopped being the relatable reactor and attempted to become the primary agent of a story herself, she risked upsetting the delicate and highly successful formula of the show. They were no longer just Tana and Brooke, two friends with a podcast. They were Tana and Brooke trademark, two highly valuable but now narrowly defined intellectual properties. Every creative and personal decision had to be weighed against its potential impact on the brand. This created a gilded cage of immense proportions. The rewards for staying within the confines of their personas were astronomical: millions of dollars in revenue, sold-out international tours, and a level of cultural relevance that few creators ever achieve. But the cost was a profound and creeping loss of personal and creative freedom. They were psychologically and financially incentivized to keep performing the same characters, even as they, as complex human beings, were inevitably evolving beyond them. The podcast, once a thrilling vehicle for their self-expression and friendship, slowly but surely transformed into the very walls of their shared prison. Every laugh, every fight, and every confession was no longer just a moment in a friendship. It was a calculated performance for the ever-watchful shareholders, their massive audience, and their demanding sponsors. This immense pressure to remain creatively and personally frozen in your most profitable character form is a core psychological burden of the modern influencer and a primary cause of burnout. Eventually, the immense psychological pressure of living within a persona prison becomes too much to bear, and an escape attempt becomes not just possible, but inevitable. The dramatic and public collapse of the canceled podcast can be best and most accurately understood as the explosive climax of Brooke Schofield's successful, multi-year escape from the role she had professionally and personally outgrown. This was not a sudden betrayal or a fit of anger, but a slow, methodical, and ultimately necessary process of breaking character in the most public way imaginable. The tools for her escape were forged through her own hard-won independent success. As her personal brand flourished outside the all-consuming confines of the podcast, she began to build an identity that was not purely reactive to Tana's chaos. Her solo content, her independent brand deals, and her growing social circle outside of the Tanaverse gave her a powerful sense of self and a level of financial independence that existed completely outside of her function as Tana's reactor. This external validation was crucial. It provided her with the psychological leverage and the financial freedom to begin questioning, and ultimately rejecting, her assigned role within their shared narrative. The palpable on-screen tension that eagle-eyed fans noticed in the final, agonizing months of the show was the visible evidence of this escape attempt in progress. It was the audible friction caused by one of the lead characters refusing to say her assigned lines. Brooke was no longer just reacting to Tana's stories. She was actively pushing back, challenging the narrative, and attempting to carve out her own space as an active protagonist within their shared story. This, of course, fundamentally broke the show's core formula. The architect of chaos needs a reactor to function. The dynamic is symbiotic. When the reactor decides to walk off stage and write their own play, the entire production falls apart. Brooke's departure, therefore, was not just the end of a partnership. It was a powerful, public declaration of her refusal to remain imprisoned by a character, no matter how famous or profitable that character had been. It was a dramatic and necessary escape to reclaim her own voice and her own complex identity. The final and most revealing chapter of this psychological saga is what happens after the prison break. As we observe the influencer landscape in September 2025, we see two creators grappling with the powerful aftermath of their former personas in vastly different and telling ways. Their current careers are a direct reflection of their relationship with the characters they once played. Brooke Schofield's post-canceled career has been a masterclass in building a new persona from scratch, one that she fully owns and controls every aspect of. Her new brand, sophisticated, controlled, aspirational, and business-savvy, is the carefully constructed antithesis of the relatable reactor persona. She is now the sole architect of her own, more stable, and more predictable universe. This was a necessary and strategic step in her psychological journey. To ensure that she would never again be trapped in a purely reactive role, she had to build a brand where she was the undisputed central force, the one who dictates the narrative. Her immense success in this new venture proves that an audience will follow a creator through a radical persona shift, as long as the new persona feels authentic to their perceived and very public journey of growth. TANA MONGEAU's journey has been psychologically more complex. She is, in many ways, still living within the beautiful, chaotic, and incredibly successful prison that she herself built over the past decade. Her architect of chaos persona is so powerful, so lucrative, and so deeply ingrained in the public consciousness that it has become almost impossible for her to escape, even if she wanted to. Her new projects, like her upcoming reality show, are essentially attempts to redecorate the prison, to find new and more exciting ways to perform the chaos that the world now expects from her as a baseline. While this strategy ensures her continued relevance and the loyalty of her core fan base, it raises a profound and somewhat tragic question. Can Tana ever truly evolve as a person in the public eye, or is she destined to forever perform the role of the TANA MONGEAU the world fell in love with a decade ago? Her ongoing struggle is a powerful testament to the immense difficulty of breaking free from a persona that has become completely and utterly synonymous with your own name. The story of TANA MONGEAU and Brooke Schofield, when viewed through the critical lens of the persona prison, serves as a powerful and deeply modern tragedy. It reveals the dangerous central paradox that lies at the very heart of the modern creator economy. The very thing that brings you unimaginable success, a compelling, unique, and marketable public persona, can become the very thing that traps you, suffocates you, and prevents your authentic growth. It forces creators into a state of arrested development, where personal evolution is a direct and terrifying threat to the stability of their brand and their livelihood. This case study is a profound and necessary cautionary tale for every aspiring creator and for every devoted fan. It highlights the immense and often invisible psychological burden of maintaining a public-facing character 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no off-season. The relentless pressure from audiences and sponsors to never break character is immense, and the powerful financial incentives to stay locked in the gilded cage are almost irresistible. Their story forces us to ask a critical question about the very nature of online fame. Is true, long-term, and sustainable success in this industry only possible for those who learn how to successfully evolve and, if necessary, publicly destroy their original, most successful personas? Or are we, as an audience, destined to watch our favorite creators forever trapped in the roles they created in their youth, endlessly performing the greatest hits of a person they may no longer even be?